Hello, and welcome. I am Light, and this is my channel. Today we're going to talk about something. For those of you who have been here for a while, you probably know that on this channel we discuss people who have mysteriously disappeared or have died under mysterious circumstances in the United States National Forest or National Park systems. Of course, there's a lot of speculation as to what the causes of these disappearances or deaths are. For those of you who are new here, if you would like to listen to those videos, they are in my playlist. Now, the speculation ranges from a wide array, from aliens to Bigfoot to the government to serial killers and everything in between. Is there a connection to Area 51? It's a wide array of beliefs. Now, I don't think that it necessarily has to be narrowed down to one opinion, one belief as to what's happening. It could possibly be many different things that come together in an area that has vast land where people can go in and go out and not be seen. There are some strange circumstances that involve a lot of the disappearances, a lot of the same situations: bad weather, no shoes, the search dogs find the scent and then they lose it, or somebody's turned up 18 miles away and they're a 3-year-old child and now they're on top of a mountain. There's just a lot of circumstances that are common in some of these disappearances. Some of them we'll never know. They're people who have gone into the parks and disappeared, and there's no trace of them left. Well, one of the theories about what happens in these parks is that if you were a serial killer, if you were so inclined to kidnap somebody, that the national park system or forests lend a prime opportunity for this. What we're going to talk about today is something that happened this year in 2019. It involved a death, and involved hikers, campers. What may not be well known is that there are several trails throughout the United States that people hike on, that people called through hikers hike on. Sometimes they go alone, sometimes you can go in a group, maybe a partner, and there's a variety of reasons as to why they hike these trails. There's the Appalachian Trail, there's the Pacific Crest Trail, there's the Continental Divide Trail, the Tahoe Rim Trail, the Great Western Loop, Arizona Trail. Lots and lots of vast land where people are hiking. Some want to find something in themselves, some strength. Some want to say that they accomplished this amazing feat. Some want to be alone. And whatever their reasons are, there's a lot of hikers out here in our national forest and park system. Today we're going to talk about the Appalachian Trail. So earlier this year, a man whose name is James L. Jordan, who is 30 years old and is from West Yarmouth, Massachusetts, was arrested. According to the criminal complaint filed in the U.S. District Court for Western District of Virginia, the incident with him began when Jordan approached a group of 4 hikers. They were in the Jefferson National Forest in West Virginia. In the court documents, the hikers said that Jordan was acting disturbed and unstable. He was playing his guitar and he was singing. Pretty sure that wasn't the disturbed and unstable part, though. Later that night, these 4 people set up camp a few miles away from where they had first encountered Jordan. Within a little while, Jordan appeared and began to threaten the hikers in their shelters. He told them that he was going to pour gasoline on their tents, and he was going to watch them burn to death. At that point, the 4 hikers decided to relocate their campsite. When they did, Jordan found them, and he confronted them with a knife. 2 of the hikers ran north on the trail to get away from Jordan. They called 911 at 2:30 in the morning. They told the 911 operator that they were being chased by a man with a knife. During that time, Jordan eventually gave up the chase and returned to the campsite near Mount Rogers National Recreation Area. He then reportedly began yelling at the 2 remaining hikers, which were a man and a woman. And I'm not sure why they stayed, why they didn't run off, but for whatever reason they stayed in the area. There was a verbal altercation between Jordan and the male hiker. The FBI identified him as 43-year-old Richard S. Sanchez Jr., and he was from Oklahoma. Sanchez took out his phone and he made an emergency call. Jordan then began stabbing him in the upper part of his body as his companion, the female hiker, looked on in horror. According to the court affidavits, when she saw her companion fall to the ground, the female hiker tried to run away. Jordan chased after her. After a bit of time, he caught up to her. She raised her hands in the air in a surrender motion, and Jordan began stabbing her. The woman suffered several stab wounds, and then she fell to the ground, and she pretended to be dead. Jordan then left and returned to their campsite. After making sure that Jordan was gone, the female hiker got up and continued to run down the trail, eventually coming upon a pair of campers who were camping just off of the trail. These 2 campers then helped this female hike 6 more miles to a trailhead, where they too called 911. The wounded hiker was transported to a nearby hospital. Jordan, meanwhile, made his way back down the trail and approached another pair of backpackers who were asleep in their tent. He was shouting at them. He was screaming that he needed a flashlight. These 2 people were very reluctant to even speak to him. The quote is saying that they thought it was a little unusual. I think we can agree. These 2 people never saw Jordan because they never came out of their tent to confront him or acknowledge him, which was a very lucky thing for them. Using pings from a nearby cell phone tower, authorities were able to find the approximate location of the first stabbing. The tactical team of the Wythe County Sheriff's Office began a 4-mile hike to the crime scene. At 6:14 a.m., the team arrived at the campsite where the first attack occurred. There, they found Sanchez's body. He had died from his injuries. There was also a dog, which led the team to Jordan. The deputies found Jordan, who had blood covering his clothing, and they arrested him. According to court documents, again, the tactical team discovered a very large knife. They believed this knife to be the murder weapon, and they found it next to the victim's body. Both the female stabbing victim and the 2 hikers who had fled from Jordan identified him as their attacker. The sheriff's department was working with the Virginia State Police. They closed about 16 miles of the trail off to complete a crime scene investigation, and then they opened that section the next day. Now, Jordan had given himself a trail name, and that name was Sovereign. And he had been a known nuisance on the trail for several months. In mid-April, he had threatened several hikers at a shelter in Tennessee. When those hikers arrived at a hostel a day or so later, they reported the incident to Sheriff's Deputy Mike Hensley. He interviewed them late that night. Hensley's quoted as saying, "We knew there was trouble down here with this boy. What really got my attention was that one of the hikers said he told them it's going to be a bad day for hikers on the trail." When Hensley heard that, he says that he immediately deployed deputies, but they were unable to find Jordan. Authorities in North Carolina observed him a day or so later, but because there was no warrant for his arrest, they could not detain him. All right here I just want to take a minute to stop and reiterate something. This man had been a known threat for several weeks. He was threatening campers, he was threatening hikers. He had been reported several times. The National Park Service, the National Forests are ultimately run, maintained, and cared for by the Park Service. But beyond that, if any crime is committed in the park, it is the FBI that has the ultimate say in what happens in this park. So, there's a man well known for being disturbing, who won't leave the park area, who's continually threatening hikers, campers, and people are afraid of him. They're doing what they should do. They're reporting him, and it feels as though the only people not coming upon this man are the law enforcement officers. The hikers continue to be harassed and threatened and ultimately murdered by this threat. According to Hensley, hikers observed Jordan behaving strangely at a trailhead on April 21st. He was asking through hikers for the password needed to get on the trail. Then, on April 22nd, Jordan appeared at a road crossing where trail angels were handing out food to through hikers. Jordan initiated a verbal argument with some of the backpackers there, who alerted authorities. He was apprehended. He had a fake ID, he had marijuana, some other drug paraphernalia, and he was carrying a 17-inch survival knife. That knife is being held in an evidence locker now. It's unclear when or where he purchased that knife that he used to kill the hiker that he murdered brutally. According to Hensley, none of the hikers who had been assaulted by Jordan in April were willing to press charges or to even testify in court, so Jordan was only arrested for fake ID and drug charges. He pled guilty to those, and he was ordered to stay off the trail. It's odd to me that no one wanted to press charges, that they were in fear for their lives. They reported him. They were in fear for other hikers' lives, but they didn't want to report him. And who knows what their reasons for that? They could be varied. But it's unfortunate that he wasn't reported, because his behavior began to get more and more disturbing. Hensley was quoted as saying, "I done all I could do. The only thing I could do is go with the charges I had. I knew this guy was a serious problem." But news of his threatening behavior made its way up the trail as reports of Sovereign harassing other hikers continued. Again, I want to point out that this sheriff knew that he was trouble, and ultimately the responsibility lies with the federal government and the FBI to remove a known danger to people on federal land. But he was allowed to go free. Matthew Norman, otherwise known as Odie, is a well-known former Appalachian Trail through hiker, and he is the founder of Hiker's Yearbook. He ran into Jordan on May 2nd at a trailhead near Tennessee's Rowan Mountain State Park. Norman recognized Jordan from his arrest photo. This photo had been widely circulated in the trail community, and he kindly invited Jordan to dinner. He said, "We all know about his violent interactions by then, but he wanted to take him to dinner and try and help him out." He said his intention was to get him off the trail, for not only the hiker's safety, but for Jordan's own safety as well. Norman says that over dinner, Jordan told him that the hikers, whom Jordan referred to as the mountain people, were being threatened by, quote, infiltrators who were trying to steal their instruments, and that Jordan was remaining on that trail in order to protect the mountain people from harm. According to Norman, Jordan also said that he had family in Maryland. Norman offered to buy him a Greyhound bus ticket to go see his family, and Jordan agreed. That night, they stayed in a hotel, and then Norman took him to the Greyhound bus station 90 miles away, watched him and his dog, who had a service animal harness, get on the bus and go away. Norman said that he didn't want to put him anywhere near a trail town. Well, unfortunately, Jordan and his dog got off at the very next stop. On May 5th, backpackers were reporting negative encounters with Jordan again in and around the Shenandoah National Park. Unlike the previous cases of hikers that were harassed or attacked or killed on the Appalachian Trail, one thing that appears to distinguish this particular one from those others was the fact that for 6 weeks before Jordan ultimately murdered somebody, there were complaints leading up to that attack. His behavior was known for 6 weeks. It was hikers who took to social media, warning other hikers about what was happening. They were particularly worried because there are a lot greater numbers of people through hikers on that trail at that time of year. Brian King, who is the publisher at the Appalachian Trail Conservancy, which is a non-profit and is dedicated to preservation and management of that trail, said that the ATC was well aware of the recurring complaints about Jordan and had been urging hikers to contact local authorities or to call 911 if they encountered this man. The organization had also asked its ridge runners, the people that are located along the trail, to assist or answer questions, to alert hikers to possible encounters with Jordan. Now, these are private citizens, fellow hikers, that are out there trying to warn fellow hikers, campers, that there is very real chance of danger on this trail because of this man. It is not the National Park Service. It's not the FBI. It's private citizens out there doing their best to make sure that no one got hurt. And of course, ultimately, someone got murdered. Unfortunately, several hikers were not notified about Jordan's behavior. The National Park Service referred all questions to the FBI, and when asked about what they had done to warn people about Jordan on the Appalachian Trail, the FBI stated that they did not know if there had been any warnings posted. They didn't know if there were any flyers. They didn't know if there had been any police officers. Certainly they didn't know if there had been any FBI warning these hikers and campers that there was a dangerous stalker on this trail. Norman says that he and other hikers want an answer as to why Jordan was allowed to remain on that trail. He states, "We're in absolute shock and disappointed that there was nothing more that could have been done." Well, there was more that could have been done. How many times did the Park Service or the FBI send people out to find Jordan? Well, apparently once. Hikers were still coming into contact with this man for 6 weeks. Ultimately, it comes down to not only the National Park Service but the FBI to protect the citizens hiking these trails when they have a known perpetrator. But they didn't. And when asked what they did, their statement was, "We don't know." So, I want you to bear this in mind when you go into a national forest, on a trail, to a national park, to be well aware of your surroundings. If something seems off or someone seems off, trust that gut feeling. Always report it. And get away from danger. But know that the people that have your back are you. Maybe the people around you weren't made aware of danger. And I think this is interesting because, like I said at the very beginning, one of the theories is that there could be possible multiple serial killers or kidnappers in the national park system. There's literally millions and millions and millions of acres of land. It's just not possible to see every person who's out there. And even if many people are seeing someone, it doesn't mean that they're going to be taken out or removed from the park. All right. Thank you for coming. If you would, please like this video. And if you're not subscribed and you would like to be, go ahead and please push that subscribe button. Please share this video if you have people of similar interests. That does a great deal for my channel. And if you'd like to be notified when my content goes live, please go ahead and click that bell. And thank you for coming to my 31 days of Halloween. Good night.